Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Theros here from Dublin. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Brian David Marshall, and we have the undefeateds. There will only be one left after this round. Paul Rietzl.
Maybe.
That's true, yeah. Paul Rietzl versus Sam Black. This is Theros draft. This is round 1 of day 2. So it's round 9.
Yeah.
And looks like play is underway here. They both have pretty cool decks. Sam Black's I love.
Yeah, obviously I love it too. It's Simic.
It's Simic,
It
and
is straight
you
up
are going to
Simic.
love this deck. Paul Rietzl's deck I like. I don't love.
Yeah. Paul seemed pretty happy with his deck. I had a chance
Yeah.
to talk to him about it. We watched him draft, and we were unsure about some of the things that had been happening there.
All right, so a Vaporkin to kick things off for Sam Black. You can see that he's tied for 25th in our world rankings. We have a top 25 rankings, and he is actually tied, I think, with Ivan Floch for 25.
Yes, that will change, I believe. So
Here's
a couple of 2-drops
Yeah, Seder Hedonist here for Paul Rietzl.
after a Vaporkin by Sam.
Sam's going to play a land, get in there with his Vaporkin, and pass a turn back. So Sam doesn't have a turn 3 play here. At least he hasn't had one yet.
Yeah. When we watched Paul draft, we saw card in his hand was his first overall pick, Polish Crusher. He felt like he couldn't quite get away from it. You know, he thought he said, oh, maybe I should have taken that Heliod's Emissary and been more open, and it kind of locked him in. But he likes his deck. And, he is in an interesting position. He was drafting knowing he was going to face Sam Black.
That's interesting.
Right.
That
He
doesn't
knows,
happen very often.
He knows that they're both 8-0. He knows that they're going to play round 1 of day 2. So he, while he didn't draft specifically against Sam, he had it in mind.
I see.
He did make some metagame decisions as far as how he built his deck.
And that is interesting. Not something that you get too often at this level. All right, so Vaporkin gets in. Sam Black hits his land drop and just says go. So not a whole lot going for Sam. Meanwhile, Paul Rietzl has managed to put 5 power up on the table, and in it goes.
Do you just attack into blue-green, 4 mana open, and not think about Horizon Chimera there?
I just jam it.
You just jam me.
I'm
Like,
trading
all right, I'll
either
trade.
of these creatures for it. So, yeah. And here it is, turn 4 Polish Crusher. Is this going to resolve? Yeah, absolutely. And Paul Rietzl with a really nice 2-3-4 curve out here means that Sam Black is going to have a really hard time coming back into this game. Let's see what he does for his turn. I think he's got the Prophet.
Yeah, he does. We can take a look at his hand there. You see that he's got a Prophet of Krufix, untaps everything.
And he can play his creatures at instant speed. They have as if they had flash. Yeah. But Paul Rietzl looks to have a great draw here. I think he's got his Ordeal of Perforos in his hand too.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, there it is.
Can't put it on his. He cannot put it on his Polish Crusher.
That's right.
Protection from enchantments.
So interesting decision here for Paul Rietzl. The Polish Crusher seems like an obvious attack, but he does have to consider if he wants to trade Agent of Horizons for the Prophet. And also, this is where where Prophet shines, right?
Yeah.
So he's got the Prophet, and Sam Black has 5 untapped mana, and it's not like Paul can just happily run it in. I mean, what if Sam were to flash in a Nethian Asp here? It would completely change combat.
Yeah.
Eat your Polish Crusher, thanks?
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. We know that the only thing that's going to come down for that there's nothing in Sam's hand.
There's nothing in Sam's hand,
that can come down on
Paul
5 mana.
doesn't know.
But Paul has no idea. He has to put him on
Can
that.
he really risk just running his Polish Crusher into this board?
That looks like he's going to have to.
All right, so Ordeal of Perforos. Now remember, Paul doesn't have the mana, and he does. He's just going to jam in there, and you got to feel bad for Sam Black because he could represent so many things here, and he just doesn't have them.
But next turn he will get to run a Nemesis Immortals out there at instant speed.
Okay, so that will be, unfortunately, it's just a turn late, as it will actually just trade for the Agent of Horizons at that point. But it will prevent the trigger, and it will be a fine play for Sam. But ideally, you're flashing in your big guys and eating.
We've been talking about this. This is a fairly vast format. We already have a back table result. Yu Watanabe up 1-0 on Tom Martell. As we go into turn 6 here in Sam Black versus Paul Rietzl. Vaporkin gets in.
Yeah, Vaporkin's going to attack for 2. It's been doing its job, but it doesn't have a lot of backup.
So this is exciting, right? The idea that you get to main phase, play an Omen Speaker, and then untap your lands at the end of at the beginning of the next turn, and put a fade into Antiquities.
He's going to fade into Antiquity here to take out the Ordeal of Perforos. So that means that Sam's actually working into a pretty decent board state where he gets to flash in a Nemesis Immortals on Paul's turn, and he can eat the Polis Crusher, or he can eat the Agent of Horizons if he thinks that Paul's going to be able to find blue mana later, because Sam Black's at 5. So Sam doing his best. He did put one of the 2 cards on top of his library as well, so he's got action. He needs to be able to survive here, though.
But interestingly,
Paul now
both players have a Nemesis of Mortals.
They do, but unfortunately for Sam Black, Paul now has mana to Monstrous his Polis Crusher. It only costs 6.
Oh.
Yeah, so things could get ugly here for Sam Black, but let's see what it looks like. Paul Rietzl can't really assume that Sam has anything in his hand. He didn't last turn.
Right.
I mean, there is one more mana on the table, so cards like Nemesis Immortals come into play, but there's not a ton that he could have. He could have a Horizon Scholar, but yeah, he just jams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam looks at the board.
Sam's looking at that Polis Crusher, and he is in the tank. That Prophet of Crufix it messes up everything.
I love that
It's
card.
a sweet card. Polis Crusher also has a special ability that whenever it deals damage to a player, you can destroy an enchantment that player controls, though I don't think Sam has any enchantments right now. So.
No. Sam just staring at the board.
Right, so he's gonna flash in the Nemesis Immortals. So he must do this. This is stage 1. He was always doing this, and you can already see some kind of there's a chump block on the Agent. And the Nemesis looks like it's going to jump in front of Polis Crusher, but it has Monstrosity 3 for 6 mana. So Paul has just enough here to pay the Monstrosity and turn that into a 7/7 with Trample. Unfortunately, the Vaporkin can't block anything, and Sam is stuck blocking like this just so he doesn't die. So here's Paul. He's going to activate the Monstrous ability on Polis Crusher. And Sam's going to take 4 damage here and go to 1.
Right. Yeah. The trample is what really makes the math there.
Yes.
Very difficult.
Yeah. Sam was very close to stabilizing there, but that monstrous ability is going to get him. And Sam's going to be all the way down to 1. And I mean, outside of a card like Sea God's Revenge.
I was just going to say Sea God's Revenge is the. And I don't know if he has that card.
I don't know either, but Sam, he drew his card, but then he's like, well, I already know what this is, so I won't even bother.
It doesn't.
Follow the adventures of Planeswalker Dak Faden in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. A special promo card unique to the IDW comic series comes in each issue. Find out more about these comics at wizards.com/magicmerchandise.
Watch these 2 players shuffle up and think about their sideboarding. Couple more results. It looks like Luis Scott Vargas is up 1-0 on Patrick Chapin, and Kai Buda is up 1-0 on Rob Daugherty. It's a lot of Hall of Famers.
Jeez, you could just blind pick any of these for our video feature, and I would be perfectly thrilled.
Yeah, and just I imagine there have to be some people at home who are going like, look, it's great that you have Paul Rietzl and Sam Black in the feature match area, but like how in the how in the name of Heliod can you not? How can you not have Kai Buda versus Rob Daugherty at the video table? And just so you know, traditionally what we do is when you start a pro tour and you go 8-0 on day 1.
Yep.
You get the first feature match of day 2.
Yes.
Then you get to look at some of the other people who are not 8-0.
This is a great
a
shot,
room
though.
full of people not 8-0.
No, but I mean you can see so many famous and popular players there. I see Nico Boni at the bottom down there.
That's it.
No, I see others.
Is that Chris Bakula on the rail? Did he finish his match already?
No, that's not him. He's got to be in there still. He plays decided.
Not fast.
Yeah. I wouldn't call him a slow player, but he makes sure.
But here you go. The last two players in this tournament without a loss.
Yeah.
Everyone else in this room has lost at least once. Most of them more than that. These two guys who've been spent this entire week together, play testing, building. Both of them end up with Nemesis Immortals in their draft deck. You know, it's funny. This was a card that I kept trying to build around. And,
but you weren't happy with
drafts.
the results?
I haven't been happy with the results. Really trying to commune with the gods. Centaur cards into my graveyard.
Right. Mill myself.
Yeah, mill myself. Here you take a look at the card. It's an uncommon from the new set. It's a powerful 6-drop. It can cost. I mean, I've played it for 2 mana. It's really good.
It can be. Yep.
And then
and monstrous.
And then monstrous is going to cost you 5 at that point. So.
Yeah, you mentioned Commune with the Gods. It says it's an anchor card. I mean, this just shows you the power of power and toughness to converted mana cost ratio, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you get this thing for 3 or 4 and it's a 5/5, and it doesn't have evasion. This thing doesn't have trample, nothing like that.
Nope.
It can become a 10/10 if you monstrous it. I mean, the thing is just huge. And when you get massive cards like this for way cheaper than you would normally get, it's just good. I mean, it just is. And it's interesting too because
he's one of the leading attorneys at the John Grisham firm of Time to Feed.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, the really cool thing about it is just that you can actually craft the board state and the game around it. Like maybe your opponent offers you a trade that you would be like, but you look down and you've got Nemesis Immortals and you're like, yeah, okay, we'll trade.
Right.
And you can get a couple of creatures in the yard that in a favorable spot where it doesn't really hurt you, and all of a sudden you can get Nemesis Immortals for 4 mana.
Sure. On turn 2, turn 3, you can just push your guys in front. They have maybe draw out some tricks even.
Yes, exactly.
And then and not find yourself. In fact, you really kind of want to draw out the tricks.
Yeah, because now your 5/5 is untouchable.
Right.
Yeah. Nemesis Immortals, an interesting example of why Death Touch is so good in this format as well.
Yeah.
He just gets blanked by a Scorpion or by a Baleful Eidolon.
Baleful Eidolon is such a good card.
He does work.
You're like the green player with you're like, what the hell do I do about that stupid Baleful Eidolon now?
Deck, right? You're in the green red, and it's like, well, I guess I'll lightning strike that.
Time to feed in 3 for 1 myself.
Yeah, it just gets ugly. But thankfully for Paul, he's playing up against blue-green, which is also not really a great matchup for green-red because you get the green, like the Sedge Scorpions from the green deck, and you also get the instant speed bounce spells in Griptide and Voyage's End for the blue, and that can mess with your monstrous. But I gotta say, when you really look at Paul Rietzl's deck, he's got Anessian Asp and the Polis Crusher. I don't know that he has any other monsters besides Nemesis.
No.
Yeah, so he's not really in a position that often to commit fully to monstrous and then get blown out.
Yeah, he's more of a mid-range deck than a big fatty deck.
Yeah, you can see streaks of Paul Rietzl aggro in there. He took some aggressive cards over some more solid mid-range cards during the draft portion, and you can certainly see that he still has that worldview on each pick.
Paul Rietzl going down to 6 cards to start this. Looks like he's got a mix of land and spells. Is it the right land,
I think
though?
he's got 2 force, no mountains here, 3 red spells in hand.
I'm going to keep.
But he said he's just going to keep.
Okay, and then Sam Black leads off with the green Baleful Eidolon.
Oh, man. This is not great for Paul. I mean, this is a card that's going to have to be dealt with. Now, he does have Spark Jolt in his deck.
And specifically has Spark Jolt because he's playing against Sam Black.
Right.
He's like, Sam always has cards that die to Spark Jolt. Not playing Portent of Betrayal main deck card. He said he would normally main deck because he knew he was going to play Sam for round 1.
Yeah, and
although he might have brought that Portent of Betrayal in. And there's the Spark Jolt.
Spark Jolt, and
this one's
to the
just
mountain.
for you, Sam.
Yeah. And Spark Jolt actually is really good against Sam's deck. Sam has, I believe, 4 Vaporkin. He's got 3 or 4. Yeah, so it's going to hit a relevant spell every single time.
2 Vaporkins.
Oh, sorry, 2 Vaporkin.
That's like 4.
Yeah, I see.
That's like 4. In the world of magic hyperbole, 2 Vaporkins is like 4.
I wonder whose deck it was that I saw that had 4 now.
Well, don't spoil it.
I'm not going to. I'm just curious now. All right, so Sam, let's take a look at his hand. Well,
not
amazing for Sam. It's just not a great draw for him. A lot of lands. Very mediocre creature, though I do see in his hand now he's got Thassa's Emissary, which is really one of the best uncommons in the set.
Here we get a look at Paul's hand. Not a lot of... well, he does have a Borderland Minotaur that he's going to be able to play next turn if he draws a land.
And there it is, right on time, turn 4. And this is going to change the way this game plays out in a huge way. All of a sudden, Paul Rietzl has to really consider this. Now he draws a mountain. This is really key. He can play his Borderland Minotaur, which can get in the way, but he's got to feel like he's in a precarious situation.
And Sam's about to assemble the Voltron
of
aqueous form on...
It's... this is all I ever want to do for the rest of my life, BDM.
Really?
I just want to, like draw
you
cards,
want to attack,
but decide
scry, go, I want to draw this one.
Yes, and take 3. Like it's everything I want to do in Magic. I'm so excited for this. All right, here's Borderland Minotaur for Rietzl. It's a start, but Sam Black has to feel excited that his opponent didn't just immediately lightning strike his Thassa's Emissary. Now,
although next turn, I think what we're going to see, there's the form.
Yep, there it is.
So now you attack.
Trigger.
It's unblockable.
It is.
You get to scry 1. He's like, oh no, I don't like that card. I'm going to push it. It's probably a land.
It was a land. It was an island. Yep.
Yeah. And now he's like, draw a card. Draws a fresh card.
And it's a Voyage's End. Unbelievable. Because Rietzl, one of his plans here is to go for Ordeal.
Right.
Try to put the race to him, and then eventually kill the...
Well, look what he can do with if he draws another land here. Is he can... Ordeal.
Did he draw a lightning strike?
He drew lightning strike, yeah.
It must be nice to be Paul Rietzl.
Yeah.
Breaking up the party, huh? And, of course, Sam Black is going to know, or he probably is going to assume that, he's going to know that Paul just drew that lightning strike. So let's see what happens. There's actually a lot of options here for Rietzl, and also for Sam Black with 4 untapped mana currently.
Right, and you have to respect. You have to respect Voyage's End.
Yes.
You have to respect Griptide.
Yep. All right, he's going for Ordeal here. He's going to attack, and I think that we're going to see a Voyage's End right now. Wow, Voyage's End means that Paul Rietzl doesn't get to replay this Minotaur until next turn at the earliest.
But he does get a clean window. He has to assume a clean window to lightning strike that Thassa's Emissary.
That's right, and there it is. And Sam Black has to be so sad. But he did get some good value out of it. But nice draw there for Paul Rietzl to take down what was really going to, that thing was going to take over the entire game. All right, and now right off the top here, Sam Black finds Prophet of Krufix, and that means he kind of gets to he gets to go off a little here. He's going to get
he's going to be able to play his Ferris Band Centaur as an instant here.
Boom.
Which I don't know that Paul can get his way past.
Now, is he going to do it? He's not,
No.
because he wants to use it as a removal spell.
Yeah.
Remember? I mean, he has essentially infinite mana here. He can cast whatever he wants right now.
Right.
Pass the turn.
No reason to cast my Vaporkin. Tom Martell, by the way, has lost to Yuya Watanabe. Yuya Watanabe takes that in 2 pretty quick games.
I like this more when I had my crab friend.
What?
I like this more when I had my crab friend.
You guys can hear Sam Black say, I liked this more when I had my crab friend. Sam, I'm right there with you, buddy.
We're going to get a time defeat here.
Paul Rietzl playing fun police here by
like,
breaking up the cool cards.
You're going to surprise me with your Ferris Band Centaurs?
Right. And there they are. So Sam gets to dump his hand at instant speed, but in fact his Prophet dies. And, not that big of a deal at this point. He doesn't have any cards left in his hand anyway, so it was just a 2/3 body from now on. Well, I mean, the flash thing obviously still matters, but...
Oh boy!
Well, he can cast it, so
he can cast it. I think he's able to actually activate it as well.
14.
So he's got 2 creatures in the graveyard at least. No, there's 3.
Yeah.
There's the Emissary.
Yeah. He has the mana to do both.
Does he have another green source?
Not this turn.
Oh, sad. All right, well, Sam Black, though, continuing to add to the board. That was a great draw for him. And let's see what Paul can do. He has done a really great job of keeping himself in this game. He drew that lightning strike to get him out of what was going to be a game-ending combination of Aqueous Forum and Thassa's Emissary, and
didn't run into the sort of black tunnel that Wile E. Coyote painted on the cliffside to make it look like there was a road going
this
through.
direction. Yeah, he did not. And he's really, you know, even though Sam Black has really put a lot of pressure on the board, Paul is not in an awful position. You know, he is actually in a spot where he has draws and there are sequences that he can get out of this, even though you'd say he's behind.
Yeah, look, Paul interesting. Paul looked at attacking there, just seeing if Sam would respect the combat trick.
Yeah. I mean, what can Paul Rietzl represent there? I mean, Titanic Strength doesn't get it done.
He can represent Feral Invocation, certainly. Oh, that won't get it done. That'll be trade.
Yes.
So just to let you know, Luis Scott Vargas has defeated Patrick Chapin, but we are holding for you, for your viewing pleasure, Game 3 between Hall of Famer Robert Doherty and Hall of Famer and all-time money winner.
Yes.
Kai Buda.
Still currently in the lead.
Yeah.
John Finkel closing fast.
So he does attack with the Borderline Minotaur, and Sam doesn't block. Sam's like, no, I'm not prepared to make that trade.
Yeah, Sam Black clearly wanting to keep the pressure going on his end. And that was a sweet play from Rietzl, though. Because, I mean, Rietzl is just stone bluffing here, right? He has just nothing.
Yeah.
Like, if Sam Black blocks, he's like, sure, put this in my graveyard.
Right.
Yeah. So really, really high-level stuff there from Paul Rietzl to get in that 4 damage. This is what he's known for, right? He finds ways to get in damage that other people wouldn't, and he can close out the game, and that's what he's doing here.
Although he takes a while thinking about that.
Yes.
Is that for you? I mean, he knows Sam's a very cautious player.
Yeah, when I play at local shops and stuff, if somebody just immediately jams their weaker guy into mine, I give them credit. I'm just like,
right,
I don't
but
think
if they think about it for a while and then attack,
I would think that they had a little less. But with Paul, I would respect them. I just don't want to get involved. All right, so here's take 10.
2.
Yeah.
I'm at 2.
And you're at 2. And that,
so
of course,
he's got it. He has to deal with that Vaporkin.
The Vaporkin, yeah. It's all down to the Vaporkin at this point. So here's the draw step. And that's not going to do it. He's got a Fanatic of Mogus.
But he doesn't have 15 red pips on the board.
Yes, he does not. And he is not going to be able to get in for the full 16 damage here. So I think that we're going to see an equalizer here, as I believe that Sam Black will have won this game. It's so tough because Nemesis Immortals gets so big. I mean, we're not just talking about, 3. It's not like Monstrosity 3. Nemesis Immortals is Monstrosity 5.
Yeah.
And it just gets huge. I think it's the second biggest monstrosity going, and Paul Rietzl concedes the game to Sam Black.
So we see these guys now going back to their sideboards for a second viewing, thinking, oh, what did I miss? What could I have done? Paul obviously thinking about, how do I get the Spark Jolt and the Portent Betrayal into my deck?
Yes.
I need both of them.
He really
Sam.
does. They're both quite good versus Sam Black as well. We'd like to thank Gaming Etc. for being an official card retailer here at Pro Tour Theros. Use the promo code Dublin when ordering on GamingEtc.com to earn 10% off all singles and accessories. For more information, visit GamingEtc.com. Yeah, I think he actually does want both of those cards against Sam. They're excellent versus him. He's got multiple targets that are really an issue.
Zed Scorpion, Welkin Turns.
Yeah, there's 3 of those right there. Those are all an issue for Paul Rietzl. I mean, he's got the Nessian Asp, but a turn to Vaporkin. Did you say Welkin Turn?
I probably did say Welkin Turn.
The funny part is I didn't even flinch.
Welkin.
The reason we're saying that, it's a functional reprint. It's the same text but a different name on the card as a card from Zendikar. But anyway, those are actually kind of an issue for Paul Rietzl. He doesn't have a ton of options. All right, take a look at Fanatic of Mogus here.
This is a card
that's a sweet one.
When we were watching Paul draft, I think he was like, "Oh yeah, I guess red is open." I'll take this.
Yes.
It's, goes in a couple different decks. You could be like, you can play Devotion. It just gives you a little extra reach.
That's right.
It goes in the Minotaur deck.
Yes, it is.
We've seen it be a powerful card in Standard.
Yeah.
It was the masthead of the SS Red Deck wins that won week 1 of the new Standard format in the Star City Open. There was 4 of them in just a Red Deck wins, and Boros Reckoners and Burning Tree Emissaries. You just on turn 4, you're like, take 6.
Yeah, and we've seen it yesterday even in limited. Chris Pakula had a mono red deck, and he had a bunch of Dragon Mantles and stuff. And yeah, Fanatic of Mogus did serious work for him. I think that in a deck like Paul Rietzl's, it's a little bit more like a incidental, like it's a solid creature, and you're like, take 3. Yeah. Lightning bolt you.
Yeah. So how high do you pick that card if it had been a 3/1 for R2? And
oh man. But it still had that same ability.
It still has the same ability. Yeah, same card except it's a 3/1.
Can I bid you up to RR1?
Sure.
Oh man, I would take it really high. That would be amazing.
I mean, at RR1, just a 3/1 that just said deal 2 damage to your opponent when it came into play.
Would play. Yeah, that would be nice, especially in a format like this. That's one of the cool things about cards like that. It's a 4/2. You guys get a look here in Ireland at our really nice place to play Magic.
I hope we come back here.
I would love to.
I like this country, and I really like this tournament site. I've been very pleased with it.
Me too. We've had a great time. There's a few restaurants and pubs in walking range of the site as well. A couple of them are even playing some Magic, for people that want to play. And it's been, a really great event so far. Great location. One thing to remember about Paul Rietzl and Sam Black, they're teammates.
Yeah.
They tested and talked and brewed and drafted and all this stuff together. So, there is that element as well about really knowing what how the other person thinks. Though I do have to say, these two particular players offer a really interesting contrast because they're actually quite different players in the way that they approach Magic. Paul's like brutally practical. He is the most. He can strip things down to their barest parts and really just get to what's important. And Sam Black is more of this sort of mysterious. He comes up with stuff that nobody else sees.
Yeah, they're both about like 20, right? Paul figures out how to deal exactly 20 damage, and Sam tries to figure out how to take exactly 20 turns.
I thought you were going to say how to get 20 cards in his graveyard. All right, so we're underway here. Sam Black, no Sedge Scorpion on turn 1. No Red Source anyway, though, for Paul Rietzl yet. And I don't think he's got one in his hand. This could get ugly. He's got all green, though. He does have a play, though. It's Agent of Horizon, so perfectly fine card on turn 3. And I believe he's going to be met with another one. Sam Black drops his own Agent Horizon. So Sam's are marginally better. His can get unblockable.
Sam's have a 00, nomenclature. They're able to... a classification, I should say. They're able to kill.
Yeah, but Sam does, in fact, trade it off. This could be a hint that he might have Nemesis Immortals in his hand.
Let's take a look. We can see what Sam is working with.
He passes the turn back, and I believe he's got a Prophet of Crew. Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. Oh, man, this is like the BDM hand. Look at that. Man. Horizon Chimera. End step, flash this in, draw a card, gain a life, and I'm going to start beating down. Yeah. That card is a powerhouse. I love that card.
And then we take a look at Paul's hand.
What is Paul dealing with? Red card, red card, red card.
Couple of ordeals, a Nemesis Immortals, a Destructive Revelry, Lightning Strike.
Look at Sam Black just going off. He has now played Prophet of Krufix, and he can play his Centaurs. I don't know if he has any other options, but poor Paul Rietzl here, no red mana. He managed to draw it in the last game, but not this time. And there it is, the 3/7. And Sam Black draws a card, gains a life, and it looks like he is in the driver's seat here thanks to Prophet of Krufix.
Yeah,
in they go.
So good.
It is. So Sam taking a little bit of risk here playing into potentially a Savage Surge, but he doesn't care. Yeah. He's so far ahead. And he just happens to have another one. Wow. Is this a mountain? It is not. It is one of Paul Rietzl's best cards, but even at this point in the game, it's getting so far out of hand. All right, well, here we go. Nemesis Immortals for Paul Rietzl.
That's going to get voyages ended.
It is. Right back to the hand. Paul Rietzl extends his hand, and that's going to do it. Sam Black defeats Paul Rietzl to remain undefeated here at Pro Tour Theros. 9-0.
Yeah. Prophet of Krufix had a vision of no mountains.
Are you ready for the next step on the hero's path? Come to Theros Game Day on October 19th and 20th and put yourself to the test in the Face the Hydra Challenge. For more information, visit wizards.com/magicgameday.
Man, that's a sick
That
graphic.
is awesome artwork. I just looked
We're
up
both
too.
like,
I
wow.
was like,
Yeah,
geez.
don't normally comment on the graphics,
Yeah.
but man, that's sick.
She looks mean.
Speaking
right.
of mean,
Yeah, speaking
there's
of
a
mean.
grizzled Rob Daugherty. Not really, grinning Rob Daugherty.
Yeah, and we had a deck tech with him yesterday. He was great in the deck tech. And as you can see on the left, Kai Bude, all-time money leader for Magic the
All-time,
Gathering.
leader in terms of Pro Tour victories.
That's right. For those of you that haven't seen Kai play on camera, this will be a real treat for you here. This human being you're looking at right there has had the most success on most of the measured ways of Magic the Gathering.
Both of these
than
players
anybody.
are Pro Tour champions. Both of these
Yes.
guys have won Team Pro Tours.
Back when Team Pro
Yeah.
Tours happened pretty commonly, right?
Yeah, both. Rob has been playing since Pro Tour 1.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, he's a lifelong gamer.
and there's a favored hoplite to lead things off for Rob Daugherty. Rob is white blue heroic. He's got 3 of those favored hoplites, so not exactly a surprise that he would lead off with one.
All right, so Kai Bude has the second swamp but does not play Farika's Cure. And there is a Battle-Wise hoplite. You'd think if Kai has it, he does. And he's decided what he wants to hit. He's actually going to hit the Battle-Wise hoplite here, and he's just going to just hope that favorite hoplite never gets bigger because that thing gets out of hand. If he wants to kill it, he has to do it soon because it gets out of range after just one trigger. But I think he's choosing the line of just ignoring it. I think he's just like, look, because that thing is a handful. But he's got himself a Blood Toll Harpy, and it looks like he's going to be able to start beating down, though. It doesn't feel like he really has many blocks here. I think that Rob can just keep attacking with that favorite hoplite like as many times as he wants, pretty much for the rest of the game until
Right, if Rob
up
just
beef.
attacked with the favorite hoplite here, no pre-combat
Yeah,
heroic.
you just can't block. Yeah,
just-
you can never block that thing. It is a really, really good one drop. I have a lot of respect for that card.
But no turn 3 play. We actually get a look at these players' hands.
Ah, yes.
So we see that there is a Battle-Wise Valor, a Ray of Dissolution, a Sealock monster, and a couple more lands in Rob's hand. Whereas, let's take a look at what Kai is working with. He's got Fleshman's Deed. He's got a Cavern Lampad.
Ooh, Whip of Erebos.
Whip of Erebos, yeah.
But he's going to kick it off with a Cavern Lampad. He's just going to keep developing his board. It's essentially going to be unblockable for the duration of this match. I mean, there is a chance that Rob's playing an artifact creature here or there, but for the most part, it's just going to get in there.
He's not.
Okay, yep, so there you go. But
It
immediately,
yeah.
it gets destroyed by Ray of Dissolution.
Right. Which is such an interesting thing about this format is how meaningful the enchantment removal is.
And, you and I were chatting about this the other day, BDM, instant speed being the key.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's, Fade into Antiquity. There's a few sorcery speed options, and they're not as good. All right, favorite hoplite again and again and again, battling. All right.
You're like, okay, hoplite. I thought you were supposed to be really
Yeah.
favored. What are you doing?
Yeah, he's not that favored this game, it turns out. But Cavalry Pegasus is, it needs friends. It's a lonely Pegasus. And right now, I mean, Rob Daugherty's aggressive blue-white deck has managed, after 5 turns, to put up two power. It's like they need assistance. And there's a Fleshmat Steed for Kai. And he passes the turn back. So Kai's got Boon of Erebos, Thassa's Bounty, and a Whip. A lot of Erebos action over there.
So Robin's going to be able to play his Sealock monster this turn.
Okay. It'll do a little, but yeah. Again, you see that favored hoplite go unblocked time and time again.
Well, it's flying now, right?
It is flying now. You're right. That is correct. It is a human. There's actually quite a few humans in this set, more than I'd think. Usually centered around the blue-white or the red-white deck has the most instances of humans.
Take a look at the favorite hoplite. Why we're talking about how difficult it is to block this card.
Yes. It is so rough to actually tussle with that thing. All right, so there it is, Sealock Monster.
And the card has Island Home, and there are a couple of potential residences on Kai's side of the table, or one potential residence anyway.
Yeah, and that's all it really needs. That's interesting.
So that is going to be able to go on the aggressive path.
And that's pretty sweet. I mean,
I guess it's not Island Home, right? Because Island Home is you destroy it if you don't control an island, too.
That's true, yeah. Oh, you're going old school on us there. Yeah. But really, I mean, when you look at it under this context, a 5/5 for 5 in blue-white, green doesn't get that.
Yeah.
You know, that's really good. It's also got Monstrous for Monstrosity 3.
For what, 7 mana, right?
It's 7 mana, that's correct. You can turn one of your opponent's lands into an island in addition to its other types, basically just enabling it to attack. But in this case, he would just turn Kai's island into an island. All right, there's Whip of Erebos. Now, Whip is excellent. Whip is a card that is very, very difficult to deal with, but you do need creatures either on the battlefield or in your graveyard to make it work.
Talking about how good this card is. Theoretically, that there's a Thassa's Bounty in Kai's hand, and he can draw 3 cards and mill himself for 3 cards.
That's
to
value.
Potentially draw air quotes extra cards.
Love it.
With the whip.
Yep. I think that's fantastic.
Rob has not been super aggressive here, although that Sealock Monster is certainly gonna be difficult for him.
Random red-green mystics that were in Chinese, and I was like, okay. I like the text.
Let's see.
Rob Doherty's getting a look at Whip of Erebos there.
Why don't we do the same thing?
Sure. You guys can get a look. It's got a lot of text on it, but it actually, when you play it, it's pretty straightforward.
Creatures you control have lifelink.
That's a big deal.
It's such a pain.
It's a big deal. It's also a new permanent type. You can see it's a legendary enchantment artifact. So it's pretty vulnerable. There's a lot of ways to destroy those type of cards, but I don't think that Rob has any of those in his hand. And it looks like he's lining up an attack here. He's going to fly in. He did not attack with his Sealock Monster. He wants to leave it back to be able to block Fleshmad Steed, I guess. He does get ahead on damage doing that, although marginally. Battle-wise and Scry.
And then Erebos' Boon of Erebos is just going to be a little bit of a backbreaker here.
Yeah. I mean, they're fighting over two cards that are not super important to them.
Yeah. It's like
it's just a big life game.
Sort of a 2-for-1 too.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he gets both cards out of Rob for just his Boon of Erebos.
It's true. Yeah.
And gains 2 life.
Does he end up gaining 2 total out of the exchange?
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What's the?
Because he gets to 4 and then he takes 2 from the boon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Boon of Erebos regenerates.
All right, here it is. Draw 3. I was talking with Zach Hill about Thassa's Bounty. He thinks that people should be playing it more. I was talking to him about it, and he said the thing that people forget is that card says, and Kai Buddha flips over his Kraken. He will be releasing that shortly. That was off of the mill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he gave a big thumbs up for that one, too. Shipbreaker Kraken.
Yeah.
Not bad to hit off with your Whip of Erebos. So kind of going off here. It's pretty sweet. But yeah, Zach was saying people forget that it says draw 3 cards on it. Like, just that's a powerful effect. Wow. So Rob Doherty just hasn't been able to put up a whole lot of punch here. He's been hanging in there, but it looks like Kai is going to start being able to take over the game with the Whip of Erebos pretty soon. Rob's going to use his Nimbus Naiad's bestow ability on his favorite hoplite. I mean, he's making some darn decent threats here.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be able to race.
But he can attack for 4-9 here.
Not bad, but remember.
But then Kai gets to attack back for 4 and gain 4.
Yes, at least.
And then-
he
and
can
make a
also
play, yeah.
he can whip back the Kraken and get 5. I mean, there's a lot of life.
He's gonna whip out his Kraken.
I did not say that.
You almost
I said
did.
whip back.
You almost did, and then I said it.
At least we know our roles, right? Yeah, but I mean, he's going to be able to gain huge amounts of life thanks to the Whip of Erebos. It's really going to take over this middle to late part of the game now. If Rob Doherty can't either find a way to neutralize it, kill it, or basically kill all of Kai Buddha's creatures forever. And that's just not going to happen. Yeah, in white blue. All right, so Kai's going to attack with his Blood Toll Harpy, gain a couple of life, jump back up to 17.
Yeah, it's not often that the game goes this many turns after a first turn favorite hoplite.
Yes, it's true.
And you're like, oh, I'm at 17.
Yeah, and Kai actually could have killed it and just didn't. And it hasn't really done a ton here. As Kai dumps his entire hand on the table, 2 return phalanx and a Vaporkin. So this represents huge life gain swings for Kai Buddha, and it makes it really impossible for Rob Doherty to race at this point. So now he's going to have to go into shields up mode. And I mean, does he have an Elspeth floating around in there sometimes? Like, he's going to need something pretty insane.
Nope. But he can get a hopeful Eidolon maybe and try to race back.
But it's just the life totals will just end up both being very high.
Yeah. And ultimately the whip is going to reign supreme here.
It will.
Oh, there is a hopeful Eidolon. Look, that's what he drew.
Hey!
So he gets to attack here for free. Like, no damage gets done
Yes.
to the favorite hoplite because it's been heroic this turn.
That's right. And even then, Kai's just got a Vaporkin.
But he's like, whatever.
Yeah. So Kai takes 6. That jumps Rob Doherty back up to 20. But
Take a look at Hopeful Eidolon. It's like, +1/+1, plus the one from heroic and lifelink.
excellent card.
Really
any
a premium
card in this
premium
set,
card
it
in
is.
the heroic deck.
It really is. Anything that says bestow for 4 is a premium card. Like that is a really sweet ability to have available. All right, here's a Nimbus Naiad that's going to get bestowed onto something. It looks like on the
Fleshman Steve.
It's the happiest horse ever, even though it's kind of deadish.
Yeah. But don't tell it. I mean, it's in such a good mood.
Yeah, I won't tell it. And so now he attacks with all of his flyers.
So that's 8.
That's 8.
And goes back up to 19.
19. And this is where they're going to run out of ink from their pen because they're going to be writing down life total switches with such regularity here. This has been a sweet game, though.
I mean, cards in hand 1 is so misleading when you have Whip of Erebos.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the
in
cards
hand,
only come in briefly,
yeah.
but they still get to do stuff. Let me see the Flesh Mad Steed.
I think I underestimated that drawback a little. It's actually kind of annoying when you have to tap that thing.
But you can make it fly and just attack.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Look, a 4/4 flying lifelink Flesh Mad Steed, I probably would have valued a lot higher. But all right, is that a Laguna Band Elder?
Gain 3 life.
Back to 15. Yep. And now he's just going to pass the turn back. All right, so this is where the whip usually starts taking over, but that favorite hoplite is a serious defender here. Kai Bude has a land and a coastline chimera in his hand, so not a ton of action.
Yeah, and only a plains sitting in hand for Rob Doherty.
Right. So we've hit that late game stage where top decks matter and where the board state that you've developed is what's going to carry you to the finish. And Kai, I mean, I'm assuming, like, he's doing the math right now, but I'm assuming he doesn't have any great attacks. There's a 5/5 on the ground, plus that huge hoplite that has flying and lifelink. How do you attack into it?
Doesn't he just, does it have?
It's got flying, lifelink, and 2 counters, plus it was a 1/2 to start with.
Right,
So, like, it feels like he's not going to have too many attacks, but we'll see what Kai comes up with. I'll let him do the heavy lifting on the mental part of this one.
Right, so it's got Nimbus Naiad and Hopeful Eidolon on it.
That's right. And, you know, that's just incredibly difficult to attack into, because right now it's what, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got 7 toughness. All right, there's the Coastline Chimera for Kai Buddha. Not his best card, but ship it back. So, yeah, no available attacks here. And now we're top decking. Again, though, Kai does have the whip,
right.
which can get him ahead, but still, it can't get him that
Well,
far ahead.
it actually can get him pretty far ahead, right? He can, after, you know, sort of during his end step, after the beginning of end step triggers, he
well,
can.
I think, isn't whip sorcery only?
Oh yeah.
So there will be no such shenanigans today.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't let us have that much fun, BDO.
Stupid Sky Games.
You'll never live Sky Games down. All right, so let's see what Rob's looking at here. He's got a Triton Fortune Hunter. Not a bad draw. I mean, it's not going to affect the board a whole lot this turn, but it can give him the potential to pick up some velocity going forward if he finds a few cards that can target it. But it's not really going to do much otherwise. Rob's taking a look more intently right now at Kai's board state, trying to figure out, am I going to be under pressure coming up here? What's going on?
How much time do we have left?
And VDM, I've only commented on Kai a couple of times, but he just asked how much time do we have left, and I think that was a subtle hint for Rob Horty to make sure that he's playing briskly here.
And then we just waited for
I double check the length of that we were held on that game, but we'll continue in the meantime.
I guess 18 minutes should be.
All right.
So they're just making sure that their
They
time
get their
extension
full
is
allotment of time.
correct. Yeah.
These guys were held for your viewing pleasure,
Yes,
and they want to make sure that they get that time.
that's right.
That they
Perfectly
sat on the
reasonable.
sidelines.
Yeah.
You know, they want to make sure they get the full amount of time.
Wow. All right. So Rob Doherty is actually going to just battle here, send in the Sealock monster,
It becomes an 8-8, right?
Yep.
and it can become an 8/8. Kai confirms that. The super block here. He's paused, but it does look like he just wants to make sure he doesn't, because you can't. The thing is, Rob Doherty can't monstrous and have a combat trick. He doesn't have enough mana.
Right.
So Rob's just going to trade off his thing for what, 3 of Kai's creatures, 2 of Kai's creatures? Yeah, it looks like 2.
Look, what do you want to kill? I mean, I have no cards in hand, so
Yeah.
there's nothing at me.
Let's see. We'll do. 1 and 2, 3.
So you kill those 2.
Yeah.
And I gain 3, 6, 7, 11 left.
Yep.
I go to 30.
I gain 11 life. The Nimbus
Oh, by
Naiad
the way,
stays on the table.
I still have this flying army here.
Yeah. So Rob, you know, whittling down the resources, but
Sort
remember,
of.
the whip.
Here you go.
Where is the whip? It's just off camera. Okay, I was like, did it get destroyed and I
No,
missed it
no,
somehow?
no.
I would have seen that, right? Yeah, but it is actually just over on the left there. And every creature that gets put into Kai Buddha's graveyard can become a resource for later. Now, that favored hoplite, the most favored of all hoplites there, is really doing a great job of holding the fort here, though. I don't think that Kai can even just like move in and just go all in like 3 attacks in a row or something. I wonder if that hoplite still gets Rob back up ahead. It doesn't. Yeah, he just go again.
Yeah.
He's got to wait for, you know, what Kai really needs here is like Griptide, right?
Yeah,
something like that to just get that out of the way.
So here comes a Triton Fortune Hunter for Rob.
Yep.
Interesting card in Rob's hand. You know, we talked about Griptide. Rob is holding a Gainsay, which he sideboarded in, you know, for this blue-on-blue matchup.
Taking a quick gander at Kai's deck list, and I don't know if he's got a lot coming that can get rid of the hoplite. He might just have to overwhelm the board here. This is a really crazy board state.
By the way, look at what's in Kai's hand.
What was it?
Gainsay. We might see a counter war, boys.
Wow. Both players going deep into the sideboard here.
So apparently someone came up to Andrew Cuneo this weekend. They're like, oh my God, it's so cool that they named a card after you.
That's funny.
Gainsay, of course, a reprint.
Right. And it's also his Magic Online game, right?
Yeah. Derived from the card, not the other way around.
Right. It says something about Cuneo that people would assume that. Let's see. Land go. So we've had a really great game here. I mean,
So
this is not a common situation in Theros. There's a Benthic Giant now for Kai. You know, and it's going to get Gainsayed. And are we going to see a re-Gainsay here?
Yes.
We are indeed. And another Gainsay fight. I did not think I would ever see that in Limited, but there it is. The full Gainsay fight.
That is as big a stack as you're going to find.
Yep.
Did Kai just draw Read the Bones? Oh,
Yeah.
he did. Wow, that could be great.
By the
here.
way, I mean, Kai is very close to actually closing this game out.
Was it a Wave Crash Triton that we just saw?
Well, he can just, at some point,
Because
he's
if he
going to
can
be...
find a Wave Crash Triton, this could be over very quickly.
Also, at some point, he gets to, we said there's a Kraken in his yard, which he can whip into play and monstrous.
Yes, he can.
And just tap 4 creatures.
Yes, and he can try to do 15 damage in one hit. But the Shipbreaker Kraken costs a bunch.
A bunch to monstrous.
To monstrous, right. It costs 8.
Right. So he needs...
He needs 12 mana.
12 mana.
Yeah.
He's not far off.
He's got 7, 10. Yeah, he 7, 10, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, he's close. One away.
So Cavern Lamphead comes in, intimidates, and then gets exiled.
30, right? Yeah.
And that's going to bolster.
Yeah, Kai was
Kai's
worried he
life
lost
total.
2 life to read the bones. He's like, I need to gain that 2 life back.
Get that back. Now, was that, though, a Wave Crash Triton that we saw? Because that's going to matter.
Oh, yeah, there is one on the board
There
now.
is one? Okay,
Yeah.
so because if he has that, then he can use it to tap down the favorite hoplite and enable some just wreck you attacks here. He does need to find a way to target it, of course, but...
I'm really just hoping for the Kraken win here.
I'd love to see that, too, and he is 1 land away. He's sitting on 11. He needs 12.
Really cracking the whip.
Boo.
I think that's a yay.
Yeah, I'm sure Luis Scott Vargas would approve. So
And now the Battlewise Hoplite gets in. He's like,
yeah,
time for me to gain some
I've come
life.
around. That isn't a boo. That was pretty sweet. you get an A.
And then we see the reason Rob Darty can go on the attack is he's drawn a Divine Verdict.
Ah, interesting. All right, there's
All
the
right,
land
there
that
is
Kai
land
Buddha needed.
12.
So is he going to do this? Is he going to crack in the whip? Because I want to see it.
I have cards, too.
He says, I do have cards.
What card is that in Kai's hand?
I couldn't quite see.
It's a Baleful Eidolon.
Oh, well, that would work too. Yeah, I think he's actually going to go for that plan here because he can tap down the hoplite with that.
Yep, says Baleful Eidolon, Triton Trigger.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's going to be huge because now he gets to whip back whatever his biggest non-Kraken creature is, and then he can set it up for next turn. I couldn't
Gets the
see what
Benthic Giant back.
he got the Benthic Giant. He's going to allow his return Phalanx to attack, and in they go. And he can do this with impunity,
Right.
because he's going to gain all this life here.
Chooses not to send in the Triton Wave Crasher.
That's an interesting decision. I think I just jam, right? Does it have summoning sickness or
I guess,
something?
I mean,
forgot?
they've played 2 games. He might know about the Divine Verdict.
Sure.
Probably has seen it. Just like, you know what? This card is such a trump for me here.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true, and it is only getting in for 2. Interestingly, I think the one activation of it is going to be enough here.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, keeping that hoplite locked down for just a turn cycle means that he's going to get 2 of these type of attacks. And again, you know, normally you're nervous during these times because you're kind of doing an alpha strike, but in reality, Kai is going to gain like 15 life this turn or just something insane. And by the way, he's already at 24. So it looks like the Whip of Erebos might power Kai to the victory here, though Rob is carefully considering what he wants to do. He does have Divine Verdict, so he's got some options.
Yeah, with the Battle-Wise Hoplite locked down for an entire turn cycle, he's not able to gain any life to sort of prolong this game.
That's right.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Is there 7?
Oh, maybe.
This guy.
2, 7, yeah. 7, 12. And
Again, 3, 7, 14.
14.
Go to 38.
43.
I have me on 38. 24 and again.
Oh, I had bad handwriting. I had a 29. So I read my 24 as a 29.
Even Hall of Famers have bad handwriting sometimes.
And
Everything's sorted. This thing gets exiled. Nope.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's that, yeah.
Nope, 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 nope.
Set.
And here's a draw step. This could be the last one for Rob Doherty in this particular match. Remember, players are tied at 1-1. He passes the turn back. Now let's see what Kai does. He's got Rob down to 12. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, he's got the mana. He could do it.
He can absolutely do it. He's doing some math beforehand here.
That's probably. Oh.
All right, here it is. Whip.
step like this.
I couldn't see what he got back.
It wasn't. I think it was just.
Oh, sad.
4, 5,
It was just a phalanx.
All right, but he pays for it, and apparently that's enough to win the game potentially. But Divine Verdict. Will this keep Rob Doherty alive for a turn?
That guy.
Sure. So you take 11,
You go to
You
one.
go to 1.
7, 10.
Booty goes to 49 life.
48.
Is Whip of Erebos good?
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
But Rob does get to untap with his hoplite now. And unfortunately, I think he's just got a grip of lands here. Yeah, it looks like he's got all lands in hand. Nothing going, sitting 48-2 against Kai Bude.
Yeah, this is actually excellent.
Yeah, he forgot to exile that guy, but he does it now.
All right, come on, crack the whip. Just do it. Just do it.
He's doing some math, and he's hitting it. I mean, the thing is, Rob does have 3 cards in hand, so even though it feels like kind of a splashy win more play, he kind of needs to make sure that this happens. And there it is, cracking the whip. Tap down your team, attack with everybody. And Rob Doherty has to extend the hand as Kai Bude defeats him 2-1, and really a great game of Magic here at Pro Tour Theros. Great stuff.
Look at this spell run coming up.
Wow, that was quite a match.
I'm pretty
or a
excited
game.
to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Welcome back to the booth, guys. Marshall Sutcliffe here with Brian David Marshall, and that was awesome. I kind of felt bad for Doherty, though. I mean, he really kind of sputtered out. He had what looked like a really strong start, hung in there, but wasn't quite able to get there.
You start your game on a turn 1
Favorite hoplite.
favorite hoplite. The game is
That's a
gonna,
10 out of 10 for turn 1s, by the way.
the game is going to go 100 turns.
Yeah.
Right? Your favorite hoplite will never die.
Mm-hmm.
And you lose with about 60 life between you and your opponent.
Yeah. Unbelievable, really. And I mean, I think it really does show, though, Whip of Erebos, that Kai Bude was able to get that game into the later stages because Rob was stable for 4 or 5 turns in the middle part of that game thanks to the favorite hoplite with all the bestowed creatures on it. And even though Kai had 5 or 6 creatures he couldn't actually attack, but the Whip of Erebos was a ticking. It's just tick, 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 because Rob's just like, well, at some point he's going to be able to just start getting things out of the yard and getting me, and that's going to do it. All right. Studio B, we call that the news desk. They are ready for us over there, so we'll send it there. When we come back, we'll have the second round of draft here from Pro Tour Theros. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
I tell you what, we're going to be working the booth pretty hard this morning because they say we'll see you in a bit. It will not be long. The pairings are being spat out of the computer as we speak, so it will not be long before we get down to red-hot drafting action. But I've got Zach Hill with me, and we're going to put the designer, developer, inside R&D hat on for a minute or two, Zach. And you've picked out 4 or 5 cards from Theros with a particular theme in mind. What is that theme that you've chosen?
Yeah, so a lot of Return to Ravnica block was designed to have just kind of a lot of generically good cards, usually gold cards, that you could kind of slot into decks and play utility roles. But something we want to do when a new large set comes out, which is what Theros is have cards that you can build decks around. Cards that kind of loudly affect the metagame to shake things up a little bit so that you aren't just playing the same year's worth of Standard again.
Okay.
And I wanted to kind of call out what a few of those were and kind of what we were trying to do from an R&D perspective with the cards.
All right, so let's take our first card. We're going to sort of go through vaguely in color order, which means we begin with white, and we're going to go with Soldier of the Pantheon. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, so Soldier of the Pantheon, a lot of players said was one of the defining cards of the format coming in. One way that you make sure that Standard isn't just the same as it was with last year's cards is to make cards that are good against them. Soldier of the Pantheon, obviously really great against the multicolor strategies. But even in monocolor decks, a lot of cards that were pretty dominant, cards like Boros Reckoner, cards like Voice of Resurgence, cards like Burning Tree Emissary, Voice of Resurgence in a 2-color deck, but an early drop. This card is extraordinarily effective against those. And so we expected once it came in to really kind of shake up the metagame and encourage some of the newer monocolored Theros cards since, people are going to play it. This is a 1-mana 2/1.
Okay, that second ability, whenever an opponent casts a multicolored spell, you gain 1 life. Anytime you gain 1 life, it feels like it should be a very minor thing. But is it designed so that, the Soldier of the Pantheon is a soldier, not the, so it's not legendary.
Right.
Is there a sense of deliberately putting yourself in a place where you can actually be gaining quite significant amounts of life, perhaps in a life gain strategy overall?
Oh, we absolutely saw that. I think it can be good as a part of an overall life gain strategy, or just sometimes you draw 2 copies. And we were watching in one of Pat Chapin's feature matches, if you're up against a mono-red deck, you have 2 of those out, all of a sudden, casting 1 Burning Tree Emissary, casting 1 Boros Reckoner negates an entire shock, basically, or an entire attack from an Ash Zealot or something like that. So, you may not gain 20 life off of these cards, but it's definitely significant.
And multicolored, protection from multicolored is an odd phrase within Magic because we don't see it very often. When you say pro-red, pro-black, pro-white, we see that from time to time. Protection from multicolored, it's not something we see a lot of. Is that something that you're almost wary of inside R&D when you're sort of, anytime you write the word multicolored onto a thing? Is that something you're like, do we really want to do this?
Me personally, who is not in charge of templating and is not good at templating,
Sure.
So take my commentary with a grain of salt, I would have said protection from multicolored spells and permanents, just because protection from multicolored sounds like an incomplete sentence. Because protection from multicolored what? Protection from multicolored cats. But it is something that has the potential to be a little bit confusing. That's why we put it at rare,
Right, okay, so you will actually actively look at complexity within rarity.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because I look at Soldier of the Pantheon, I don't think of it as a particularly complex card, but of course, I see what you mean. All right, let's go to a blue card. Let's go to Master of Waves, and this card is really making waves this weekend.
Yeah, I'd say one of the breakout decks of the tournament is the mono blue Devotion deck.
Right.
Like the slide says, really good with Tidebiter Mage, Frostburn Weird, and kind of just is a card that encourages a deck that we have not seen in a really long time, which is an aggressive blue creature deck. We knew we wanted Devotion to be a staple of the set. And to do that, it has to get played in Standard.
Right.
So we made a series of cards that aggressively push Devotion. Master of Waves is one of those. And again, you know, blue aggro was not a deck that existed before. So Master of Waves, one of the most powerful cards in the set, enabling an entirely new archetype, we figured would shake up the environment pretty well.
Yeah, you've succeeded in that admirably. There are two things I love about this card, quite beyond its sort of essential usefulness and power level. First of all, it's the idea that anyone would ever choose to make 0 toughness tokens. I mean, I don't think that ever really happens outside. I mean, obviously you make 0/0s that come into play with X plus 1/1 counters and things like that. But
Germs.
1/0 is a phenomenal thing. But even more than that, almost from our perspective on coverage, it's the fact that when Master of Waves is there and any number of tokens, there's this gigantic bullseye on the Master of Waves saying, if you can just kill me, they're done.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful in terms of shifting the way that particular game is played. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting play pattern. I also think it's pretty thematic, right? He like creates creatures out of the waves, but waves breach, they're not around forever. And I think the card tells a pretty cool story.
Yeah, I really think it does. Let's move on, and we're going to go red this time. Zach's already mentioned Devotion, so let's look at someone who really wants your devotion. It's Perforos, God of the Forge.
Yeah, so one way we were going to enable Devotion is through like specific cards that care about it, but obviously the cycle of the gods, each color gets one, and they care about it in the same way. Gods obviously make you want to be devoted because they turn into giant, indestructible creatures. But another thing Perforos does that I'm really excited about, it's got this Pandemonium-esque ability of whenever a creature enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to an opponent. So if you're playing token-based strategies, that can turn into a lot of damage really quick. He also turns on your creatures with the fire-breathing ability. For 3 mana, all of your creatures get bigger. The thing I think is cool about this is, for like 2 or 3 years in Standard, Red's 4-drops were just like powerful, hasty attackers.
Okay.
You see like Koth of the Hammer, Hero of Oxid Ridge, Hellrider.
Right, sure.
Right? So what we wanted to do is make a 4-mana card that was powerful in an aggressive red deck, but worked in a totally different way. It didn't just hit you immediately, but if you untapped with it, it could do some serious damage. So we thought that would give red decks a kind of very different dimension. And we're seeing that in like the Channel Fireball deck, that, there are interesting things to do with these cards.
Yeah, there certainly are. Perforos is a really interesting card in Limited as well, because it's got such a low downside, but such a monumental upside. It's like the gulf between the best and the worst of the gods is really interesting. Let's move on to a green card, and you've chosen Boon Satyr.
Yeah, so again, talking about featuring new mechanics, one way to make sure that the environment is different is to put cards into the environment that you literally couldn't have played with before. This is one of those, because Bestow wasn't a card or a mechanic in Return to Ravnica. So Boon Satyr was the sort of premier Bestow card. We knew we wanted to give green a few more ways to interact at instant speed, to give it weapons against cards like Supreme Verdict and Detention Sphere. And the great thing about Boon Satyr is it's also really, really good in the green creature mirrors as well. We thought green mid-range would be a great strategy after the format rotated. And so if you put a card that's good in those decks against those decks, that's a great way to ensure that the new cards played and that players experience a different type of style of play from the previous year.
4 quick hits there with Zach Hill from Inside R&D. Just 4 cards that make you push you in a direction, which is always great to start deck building from. We're going to see some terrific deck techs later in the day. But right now, it's back to draft. We have Sam Black against Makihito Mihara of Japan. Black, the only remaining undefeated player. Mihara, 8-1. Alexander Hayne is up against Andrew Cuneo of the United States. They're currently at 6-3. So almost an elimination match, you might say. 7-2, John Larkin, who continues to keep on a roll from 3-2 up to 7-2. He's up against Brad Nelson, former Player of the Year. But we will begin with Adam Jansen and Ivan Flock. So let's get down once again to the feature match area. It's time for round 10 of Pro Tour Theros 2013.